Hello, this is Dennis with A1 Telephone Service and Repair, A1 Electronics. You can reach us on the web at www.a1-telephone.com, and you can also reach us at 618-235-6959. Today I want to show you a kind of a follow-up video. This is a hand-carved Chinese dragon telephone, and this is Bill's telephone. And basically this has kind of been an ongoing project. And the problem is I can't find a board that I'm happy with and that I feel that is going to be a worthy type telephone for this dragon. And this dragon came in with a regular speakerphone board and handset. So it was a telephone and it was a speakerphone, and basically what happens is it was just line fed. There was no power supply, no batteries, and I've had a few people through the time that this has been in here contact me and say, you know, they've seen a phone like this before. They're pretty rare, but it didn't work. And Bill's got another telephone like this and it doesn't work. And so basically what it really came down to, it was a poor design. And I've had a lot of problems trying to find a board that would supply the dragon's eyes. When I turn this telephone over, there's a ball of fire, and that has an LED in it, and that LED, what it does is it turns red when the telephone rings. And also there's two dragon eyes which are green, and they have to light. So when you take a line voltage and you try to run all those different lights for the dragon's eyes and have a balance on your transmit and receive with a regular line fed speakerphone, it just doesn't seem to work out. I mean, this is a wooden telephone. This is not a plastic telephone. And when you start moving the mic around and the speaker around, basically what happens is you lose some of the sound, because they actually have the sound from the speaker, the volume coming out of the bottom plate. And this is where the original designer had this speaker, was in the bottom plate. So basically what it did was it pointed out towards the bottom. And I've tried to stay away from doing anything really serious to the telephone because of the fact that I didn't, you know, it's a special wood. I'm not exactly sure what it is, but chances are I'm not going to match it, and or maybe a wood carver or someone would know. But basically I've tried to stay away from doing anything to the telephone, and you see some things going on here that were from a different board. Doesn't really matter much, because we're not really sure that we're going to get it this time either, so we may have to move on to a different situation. But I felt the best way to do this and handle this was to go to a power supply fed board. And you know, there's so many factors here. Not only does the board have to be capable of lighting the lights and things like that, which a power fed board would be, but you have to find taps. You have to be able to tap off the board so that when you activate the phone, the lights come on in the dragon's eyes. And there's not much room in this cavity here for the telephone. There's just not a lot of room going on. And as you can see, that's an old part of the original telephone that was in this dragon. And if you notice here, now they're full holes. They're all the way through. But these two holes here are basically there in the original design. And if you look at the original board, because I had to keep the original board. If you look at the original board, basically what you see here is you see this would be the area that those two holes. So you know, it's kind of like a hold or something else. We're going to have to cut these traces free and make them, the volume control for the board that I have is momentary switches, and so that it's not going to be a part of this board. So I have to cut these traces here and go out with 4 leads, 2 leads for this one and 2 leads for this one, because they don't share a common ground on a speaker up and down volume control. So basically there has to be 4 leads there. So what I did was I went ahead and took these holes all the way through. Okay, so they go all the way through now, and I'm going to end up having to put another one here because I want to put a hold button in for Bill. And not only is that hold button a hold button when you're on hook and you're talking to somebody, you hit that hold button when you're not using a phone, and it is the ring volume for the telephone, the electronic ring volume, high or low. So it's also that setting. So what we've come up with here to fill those 2 holes, instead of carving what they did, these large buttons and these oversized buttons basically, I didn't have the room to do that. And if you notice, I could not get another large button in here. These buttons were not that, there's not enough room to carve a big button for this one or this one. And that's why the original designer used these 2 here, and they didn't even bother with putting in these 2, because it wouldn't have supported those big, huge buttons. So what we came up with, because them 2 holes there are going to be for the volume control up and down. And so what we came up with here is I took some dowel rod, and I basically inserted a base on that dowel rod, and then I burnt with a wood burner, I burnt the ends of the wood. And so basically these are our 2 buttons now, and I wanted to burn it so that it matched it. See, that matches, and all you're going to see is the ends, a little bit of the ends. So now we've matched the wood, and not through a stain but through burning them. And I'm going to drop these 2 buttons in. I'm going to try to flip this phone over. But before I do all that, I want to show you, I mean, we're pretty far along with this phone, and I hope everything works out. There's some other issues I wanted to talk about too. On this hook switch, see, this telephone was only a speakerphone. It did not have a handset. But I wanted to try to go that extra mile and put in the handset for Bill, although he's really more concerned with the speakerphone. And I want the speakerphone to have a lot of drive, transmit and receive. And with a regular line-fed speakerphone, you don't get that drive, especially when the speaker is pointing out the bottom. And let's face it, line voltages around the country can be different. Yes, they try to keep them pretty normal, but they do fluctuate. So what might work real well here in the shop or on the analyzer, I might send to Bill, and he's in a different state. His phone company might not have the same voltage. It may work, you know, it may not work as good. It may work better, but you know, it depends on the line voltage when you're dealing with speaker phones that do not have any kind of a battery backup or a battery power or a transformer. That's why we went with this board, because it is fed by a transformer. The problem with this board is I still have to work on this board, and this has been the issue the whole time along, finding a board that we can fit in this telephone and fit it in there properly and get away with all the different things that we need to do. So it's been an ongoing issue, and you know, I get some bumps in the road, and I don't really, you know, we're so busy here at this shop, I don't really have much time for bumps in the road. So I kind of have to work on this stuff when I get a chance, which is not very often, because this is still kind of a design in progress. And I'm not even sure that we're going to be able to pull it off, just for the simple fact that there's so much going on. I basically had to take this hook switch and break the microphone that feeds this board here for your speakerphone, and I broke it apart at the switch and ran it over to the handset. So basically when you pick up the handset from the telephone, you're breaking away one microphone and feeding another. And the same thing with the receiver. You're breaking away the speaker here that goes to the telephone, and you're going to the speaker in the handset. So really it's kind of a design in progress. Hopefully it works. I feel though putting those buttons into the body of the telephone isn't going to be a fallback, because you know, this phone didn't have any kind of adjustments. You just turn the speakerphone on. The original designer had the volume set at high. He didn't have any kind of controls over that. He didn't have any kind of controls over the ringing. So you know, he had no functions, and so you got to have buttons for functions. So what I'm going to do here real quick is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to turn the phone on. First I want to ring it. That's the ring cycle. And I want to go ahead and answer the telephone. And then I'm trying to do this, well, I'll set the video down. I want to go through some of our numbers. I'm going to end in a 2. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick the video up, but I'm going to show you. I'm talking right now, so the speakerphone is actually picking me up. And so what I want to do now is I'm going to hang the telephone up. I'm going to hit the hook switch again, turn it on, and hit redial. And it'll end in a 2. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to turn the phone off again, and I want to turn it back on. What you're hearing here is the speaker. Now if you take the speaker out of the cup, it's going to go a lot lower. And I don't have much room in this telephone to make a funneling type device for the speaker. Now I'm going to pull these tweezers out of the hook switch. And what you hear here is the receiver. Okay? But I can turn that volume down. And I'll show you how we do that. We're going to have buttons in the body to be able to turn that volume down. So we're kind of just in the middle. Can actually turn the volume down. I'm going to go ahead and dial a 2. And I'm going to show you on the video. I'm going to take the handset and I'm going to talk into the handset. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Every time you see that red light, that's 100% modulation. But this is a work in progress, okay? And I still have to hook up the light for the fire on the fireball. I still have to hook up the dragon's eyes. But I have that kind of mapped out, and I know what I'm going to be doing. But this is kind of an ongoing thing. I want to show you, if I can, I'm going to go ahead and hang up the telephone here. And I'm going to take the power off of it, because I'm going to be moving this board around. And this won't stay like this. There won't be a power cord mounted to the board. This power plug will be sent through the back of the phone, just like their original modular port for the line cord. And then we also have a modular port here for the handset cord. So there's a lot going on. This is not a simple project, just for the simple reason as there's no room. There's not a lot of room in this telephone to put a board in, and there's just limited type situations. So it was it's an ongoing process. And so I'm going to lift the Dragon up basically, and I'm going to try to give you a look at what the buttons look like here. Although some of the buttons are missing out of the telephone because I have them out, you can actually see those buttons pretty much look like they're supposed to be there. And that would be the volume control. Now just to the left here is where I'm going to put another little round button for the hold and volume on the on the ringer. So the ringer setting. So that basically gives you a look at this Dragon telephone, and it's an ongoing process. So we're going to see how this all works out and see where it takes us, and I'm just going to continue to move forward with this situation and see what we can do. It's just one of those things when you're trying to take